I think you have everyone, Brandon. Yes.
I think this is everyone. So appreciate everyone for joining us again virtually. First off, has everyone had their been sworn in at town hall?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So with that, I think we can go right into the election of officers if we're
Oh,
looking.
actually, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. I am going to record this meeting just so we can send it to the recording secretary. Stand by one moment.
Recording in progress.
Thank you.
And I guess with that, I should call this meeting to order. The Zoom meeting ID for this meeting is 890-8979-4104, password police. It is being broadcast on Bourne TV, stream televised or recorded. We have no one in the audience, but is everyone else recording other than the Zoom? Perfect. With that said, if we'd like to move forward with the election of officers, first position, chair of the committee. Anyone interested in that position? Bruce, I see your hand.
I can do it unless someone else had their heart set on it.
I'd be more than happy to second that nomination. All right. Would we like to have a vote on that? If you can unmute yourself so we can, because I do have to get a verbal for the recording.
Actually, we'll have to do, because it's a remote meeting, all votes today will be by roll call. So I actually have the list in front of me, so I'm happy to do that. So we're not struggling.
Appreciate that, Marlene.
So Bruce McNamee as chair. So Brandon,
Yes.
Mary Jane,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and Bruce. All right. So Bruce, you are chair, so you can take over the agenda from this point on, and we're here to help you.
Right. We've got our election out of the way, design process.
Or we'd have to do the other officers. So vice chair and the clerk.
Anybody want to be the vice chair?
I nominate
Mary
Chief
Jane?
Aesop as the vice chair.
I second. You have the list, Marlene. Do you want to run?
Yeah. I will do the list. So I just want to, just so we can get the minutes right, was that the nomination was moved by Mary Jane and seconded by Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. Bruce.
Yes.
Okay. Mary Jane.
Yes.
Robert.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
And Brandon.
Yes.
All right. So very good. Bruce, you are free to ask for nominations for clerk.
Do we have anyone interested in being the clerk for our committee? Mr. Joyce? Come on, Tom.
Were you nominating me?
Yeah. Do you want to do it?
You don't have to do the minutes. The minutes are going to be done by a recording secretary.
That was my
So
next
you just
question.
have to kind of keep track of whether we've approved the minutes or not.
That was my next question. Fine. Okay.
I'll
Second that
second
nomination.
Tom as clerk.
Okay. All right. So Tom for clerk, Bruce,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Mary Jane,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and Tom.
Yes.
Excellent. And Tom, because we did miss you last meeting, I did let the group know that we will be recording all of the meetings and sending the recordings to the recording secretary who will prepare the minutes.
Okay, that's fine. If I could just for a moment have a word. I apologize for not being there last week. There was somewhat of a major problem with my email, which I think I've almost straightened out, I think, and hopefully I don't have that problem. I just didn't get the notices. Anyway, I apologize. Thank you.
Bruce, so excuse me, Tom, let me know if you want me to send you a test email at any point.
I was thinking about that. Yes, yes, I will. Yes.
Okay, I will do that after the meeting.
Somehow or other, I wasn't getting anything from town hall, and that mystifies me.
All right, Bruce, back to you.
I just need one moment. Being the chair came as something of a surprise. I just have to print off one of the documents that I was going to read online. One moment, please.
Okay.
Has everybody had a chance to at least look over the project manager's the application for the selection process?
I did, and I had a couple comments.
Sure.
Please.
On page 9, we talk about testing. We're not going to need a perk test.
No,
Other tests in there that I'm confident we're not going to need because it's a roof. It's not a full project.
that's correct.
On page 11, paragraph 8, I think that should be phase 7 because there are 2 phase 6s listed there.
Yeah, completion phase,
Yeah,
warranty phase.
correct. Thank you. Yes, I will change that.
On page 13, and this is really a question to the group, do we want to limit the number of pages that this response is? Like, we don't want to read an encyclopedia, do we? You know, limit it to, I don't know, 10, 20 pages, whatever. Just
I think that's a great idea.
because otherwise somebody might just give us a book. I don't know what length would be appropriate, maybe 10 pages or something.
Um, l- so it really depends on, and I can show you some recent examples. It really
Okay.
depends on how they organize. A lot of the pages are often resumes,
Right.
which I would not count towards your page limit.
Sure.
If you're talking about substantive narrative,
Right.
but if the town recently opened RFQs for OPMs for the library, and I'm happy to show an example if, like, I can scroll through it quickly so you can see kind of what's included, if that would be helpful.
I believe it would be.
Okay, so just give me a minute and I'll pull that up. That solicitation, we ended up with 6. So the building committee did have 6 of them to review. Um, I will pull up I'll pull up the one that was actually selected and show you that one.
Okay.
Please.
All right, so let me share this. So I'll scroll through it pretty quickly, but this will give you an idea of what it looks like. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, thank you. Um, so cover, table of contents, brief letter of, you know, a cover letter. Examples of past work, references. This is where this is really the narrative of understanding the project, continued.
That's 20 pages there coming up.
Mm-hmm. Then they get into staffing, who the team is, and then resumes. Talks a little bit about the firm. And then our standard required forms have to be submitted. So these are required documents that they have to give us.
We're gonna do a limit. What about maybe a 20-page limit on the narrative portion, not inclusive of any resumes, attachments thereof that support our. Okay.
Sorry, I keep turning off the microphone because I have some work going on. I agree, 20 pages seems reasonable, exclusive of the attachments.
So if I specify a 20-page limit, not including resumes and required forms, does that sound
Yeah.
good?
Yep.
I'm not sure I agree with that because some of the project descriptions were over 20 pages when they went into their project. I don't want to limit what they can tell us. I'm not sure what the purpose of limiting it is.
Well, if we get 5 responses and they're all 20 pages, that's 100 pages that we have to read.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect the turnaround, how quickly we can make a decision if we're reading, more than 100 pages.
Anybody have a hard and fast opinion either way on limiting the pages of a proposal?
It's more of the experience of the people that have done this that I think is important.
Think of we don't want a bunch of canned language that they're using to fill in space. I've seen that in some of these where they just have terms that not, sections aren't even applicable to the job. So I think that's probably what a limit is designed to do, is make it so it's substantive. But if you, I agree, like we don't want to have them only put 2 projects on there that are representative of their work because they were short on space.
Could we just say 20 pages preferred as opposed to required? And if they want to oversell, they can.
Marlene, in that example that you showed us, there was the sort of the project, the overview, the project description. I mean, the original thing was like not including attachments, which could be all the project stuff, which you might want to see. I mean, I mean, I routinely go through 250-page select board packets, so, 2 days before the meeting, so I don't know. I hate to limit the information and then,
Don't
No.
miss anything.
yeah. For someone who has extensive experience, I'd like to see that. I don't want to have it curtailed because of our limit.
Well, just in the interest of moving it along, let's just, however long they,
All right.
we need a schedule going forward. Excuse me, did anybody else have anything for the RFQ?
I do have a question. It's on page 10, number 7A. Talked about, I get to right page 10. This is not like, I don't know why this is not doing this correctly. I'm sorry. I'm having significant mouse issues today. So it said closeout and commissioning of the project is part of what they do. And then in section on the next page, 11, number 8A says coordinated inspection by the architect and commissioning agent 2 months prior to the end of the year one warranty, which I think is a good idea, but I'm wondering who is the commissioning agent, and when is that decided, and who decides it?
That's going to be something you're going to have to work out with your designer for this project because it's a roof replacement. There may not be a lot of commissioning. It really just depends on what the approach is going to be to dealing with the rooftop units. So that's something you're not going to necessarily know until you get into design.
So it's not the OPM that will choose that. It'll be something the committee decides in conjunction with the designer. Is that what you're saying?
The commissioning agent's usually carried by the owner. So I'm sure the OPM will have a recommendation, but it's usually not carried as a subcontract to the OPM.
Okay. All right. I'm big on commissioning agents, especially given the issue that we're working with. So I think that it's good. I was just curious how we get it involved in there. And that's again referred later on page 30 in Appendix C. It says 6.8.1 says the OPM shall coordinate inspection in that section 8A closing. So it is throughout the document that there will be commissioning agents. So I think that's good. The only other thing I had is in Appendix C on page 17 of 44. The title of the document is Bourne is misspelled. It's B-O-R-N-E instead of B-O-U-R-N-E.
On page 17?
On page 17 of 44, it's
Oh, yes,
Agreement.
thank you. Yep.
yeah, it's right in the title, and it's correct every place else, but it's
Yep.
just yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
That's it. That's all my comments. I thought it looked good.
Bruce, I just had one, I might have missed it, but is there any, I didn't see anything in here about coordination of temporary facilities or equipment. Is that something we would want to include on this? Because it seems like they're coordinating everything else.
So I think that's something that when you get to your final three, you're going to have to talk to them in the interview process. Because we're not entirely sure if they're going to be necessary, but I think that's, that will be a big topic of discussion, that in the case that it is necessary to stand up temporary facilities, what their experience is with that.
Okay.
So that would come up during the interviews.
That would be my recommendation to the group.
It's probably part of the design too. depending on how the design comes out.
Yes,
And
some
it
of,
should be incorporated into the design because the bidders will need to know about it, obviously.
I think that's why I want to make sure we're protecting that it's not going to be an additional cost to us after the fact and that it's built into the project.
Yep. Yeah, that's
yeah, I mean, I think it's more important in your designer contract than your OPM contract. The OPM will certainly be involved with it. Um, and if it is necessary, we're going to be paying for it either way.
Anything else on the RFQ?
There were some highlighted things for making decisions about. We should probably go through some of those, maybe.
Those are listed on the agenda, item by
Okay.
item, the things that
Okay.
I need back from the group.
Are those on the agenda here?
Yes. So B and C,
The
if,
schedule.
yeah, if we're in the discussion with B and C, I will gather the information I need to fill in the highlighted items.
Gotcha.
So if there aren't any more, Bruce, if there aren't any more comments on the document itself right now, and we can always go back to it if something comes up, if something comes to mind. I do want to, I took another look at the schedule after last week's meeting, and I was probably a little unreasonable. And I really did not give us enough time to adequately review before the interview period. So I took another look at this. If we have responses due on July 10th, so if responses are due back to us on July 10th, there's a series of steps we need to take. So if I have them at noon on July 10th, I will can distribute them to everyone that afternoon. You can either come in and pick up a paper copy, and I'll also email a link to all of them. And then you have to have time to review and score them. And I can show you after this meeting, I can send some examples of score sheets so you can see kind of what's involved there. And like I said, the committee had 6 proposals that the library just did. And we just did a solicitation for the Monument Beach Marina that had 8 proposals. So we are getting really good responses. So there could be a pretty large number of proposals to look through. So if you have them on July 10th, what I'd recommend is you have a week to score them, and you return score sheets to me by the end of the day on July 17th. And we can talk about all of these if it's just not feasible. I need a couple days to take everyone's score sheets and put together the composite sheet. Depending on how many there are and how extensive the comments are, I'll probably need 1 to 2 days, maybe 2.5 days to do that. So if I get them from you on the 17th, I can turn them back around and give you the combined scores probably by midday on July 22nd. The committee would need to meet at that point. So either end of the day on the 22nd or possibly sometime on the day on July 23rd are options. You review your combined scores and you essentially vote the list, you have to rank all of the respondents. So if you have six, 1 through 6, and you have a ranked list, typically you would vote to interview the top 3. But if the scores are really close, let's say 3 and 4 are only a couple of points apart, you might want to interview the top 4 if scores are really close. So that's at your discretion, but that requires a meeting for the group to sit down together and discuss. So if you did that sometime July 22nd or 23rd timeframe, we could be bringing your top 3-ish or so firms in for interviews, possibly July 29th or 30th, sometime in that time frame.
Lee, do these tend to be in-person interviews or is it like a Zoom?
So most of the building committees have been doing them in person.
Okay.
They actually bring the people in and want to meet them face to face.
Would we generally meet ahead of time to go over the scoring sheet and determine what that is before that meeting where we would actually before we submit our scores?
So I can, if the committee wants to have a meeting before the responses are due to finalize your scoring sheet, you can do that. I will send out our standard score sheet. It's what the last few committees have used. If you want to take a look at that and then call a meeting and discuss it, you can certainly do that.
Thank you.
So for the purposes of filling in the blanks in the RFP, what I would need to do is I can do all of the dates working backwards from responses due on July 10th. What I would need the committee to be able to commit to is the interview period, being July 29th or 30th, because we want to tell them right up front as part of the RFQ, because there's no rescheduling. We tell them up front, you're going to be interviewed, hold July 29th and July 30th, and then there's no going back and forth with it.
Anyone have a conflict with those dates?
Work for me.
It's fine with me.
What time of day are we thinking?
Typically interviews are done in the evenings.
Okay, that works better for me.
They can,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be a 7 p.m. meeting. The committee can meet, 5 or, but they are typically not done. They're usually done after the workday.
Okay, that I can make that work.
How long are the interviews usually?
So the instructions we usually send the interview or the firms to be interviewed are, we have been giving them guidance on how we want them to structure their presentation with certain topics, and I can show you some examples of that. And typically, we give them about 30 minutes to make a presentation, and then there's about 15 minutes for questions and answers after that. And you do 3 of them, so it ends up being a pretty long meeting.
Sounds like we have no conflict with those dates then. Is that correct? Okay.
So I'll fill in the chart, the date, I'll fill in all of the blanks for the dates. With a June 10th posting in the Central Register, responses on July 10th, and then interviews on the 29th and or 30th. And then we can work together as a group between now and then to meet on an as needed basis. So everybody's comfortable with the scoring process and the interview process.
All right. Anybody have any question or comment on item B?
The only thing that goes in the in the RFQ are the July 10th and the July 29th and 30th, right?
So there'll be a series of dates. I have to identify when the RFQ is available on the website, when
Okay.
it's advertised in the newspaper, when it's posted in the Central Register, the last day for written questions, the due date of the responses, the interview period, and then an estimated start date. So, the big dates for the committee and committee schedules are responses due on July 10th and then the interview period. And then I fill in the rest of the dates around that.
Okay.
One thing I should mention is that this is set up that all questions are in writing and submitted to Brandon. And the reason I'm suggesting that is he and I can work closely to issue any addenda if we need to. So we have a pretty quick turnaround time to issue addenda if there are questions, and those are things my office usually just does without meeting as a building committee, because we might have to issue addenda if there's a question relatively quickly. There usually are not a lot of addenda for OPM RFQs. There's not a lot of uncertainty. People are able to kind of put together a proposal without a lot of extra information. But if there are questions, we do not respond to any of them verbally. And they have to be received in writing, and they're only responded to by addenda. We don't make any direct responses.
Marlene, can we change the email if we're going to do that? Can we change the email address for me on that just so it's policechief@bourne-ma? Just my BESIP one kind of gets a lot of
John?
stuff, and I don't want to lose it.
Yes, I will use the police chief.
Thank you.
And before it goes live, we'll talk about how to manage that.
Can we move on to the C, number of paper copies? Paper copies of what? I'm sorry.
Of the responses. So the document that I scrolled through, we always get an electronic copy by a PDF. Everyone has to submit a PDF. Everyone has to submit at least one paper copy for my procurement files. And then they have to bear the cost of providing additional paper copies for the building committee members. If any building committee member would rather have a paper copy in addition to the PDF.
By just a show of hands, who's interested in paper copies of the proposal? 2, 3,
Yeah,
4, 5. Chief, you're all set, or?
I'm set. Thank you.
All but Chief Issa, please.
Okay, so we will be asking for a total of 6. So that'll be 5 for the committee members and 1 for my records. Good.
Okay. Delta, discuss the evaluation and scoring process. You touched on that already, Marlene. Is there more to that?
So what I'll do is I'll email out everyone the score sheets that have been used in the past couple evaluations. And then once you've had a chance to look at those, you guys can let Bruce know if you'd like to have a meeting to kind of talk through any changes or talk through any questions about those, if that sounds all right.
Sure. Anybody have a question or comment on item 10 or item D, excuse me? No. How about the next one? Draft interview topics.
And I did allude to this briefly too. When I send out the example score sheets, I'll send out an example of interview topics that the library building committee put together. And what they chose to do, and what we've also done with the Ice Wind Building Committee and the Fire Station Building Committee, is the group decides these are the topics we would like the OPM to build their presentation around. And that way it gives the presentation a structure rather than you just kind of listening to a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Can I ask, just as an aside, when the police station was built, there was a building committee like this?
Yes.
Are any of those members on this one currently? I'm just curious.
No.
I was on as a non-voting member.
Gotcha. Thanks, Chief. So we need a meeting date for next. Do you have a recommendation, Marlene?
If the group wants to meet and discuss the evaluation process and the score sheets, that would be before the responses are due. Otherwise, you would not meet again until July 22nd or 23rd. So we can tentatively put in a meeting date in the next week or two to give you a chance to talk about the interview topics and scoring if you want. And then if we can always cancel it if it's not necessary.
Gotcha. I'm just looking at a calendar. How about the week of the 15th? Anybody have anything in there that would be a challenge? Or the 15th?
Of July?
June? We're talking about a couple
June.
weeks. Is that right, Marlene?
Yes.
Morning afternoons.
Well, I think we need to agree on the scoring before we start scoring, right?
Yeah, I think this is just to discuss the scoring sheets themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How about if we meet on the 10th? Like early in the afternoon or in the afternoon? I don't want to do too late on a Friday, but we could pick up our paper copies and then talk about the scoring and then.
Oh, in July?
Yeah.
So
You're talking about the 15th of June, Bruce? You meant the week of the 15th of June. I'm sorry. I had a wrong idea. Sorry.
Is that an adequate amount of time, the 15th of June, excuse me?
Yeah, I can't meet on the 15th of June, but I could meet maybe the 16th or
the following is the 22nd. Would that be better for anybody?
you want to meet on a Monday?
Just was putting it out. If there's another day that's suited.
Good on the 22nd or the 15th.
Yeah.
22nd is okay for me.
Anybody have a conflict with the 22nd?
in the late afternoon,
Sure.
that I'm good on the 22nd in the late afternoon.
Okay. Want to do the same, like a 3 p.m.?
Okay with me?
Okay. All right. Do we need to vote on that, or can we just say let's Monday after next at 3? Need that be in person or Zoom again?
June 22nd at 3.
Yeah. Yes.
For discussing the scoring sheet, I think I'd be comfortable with Zoom.
Okay.
That's better for you.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Before we adjourn, anybody have anything else to bring up before we wrap this up?
Marlene, do you want us to take some sort of vote on the RFQ, or are you okay with just the discussion that we've had?
I'm okay with the discussion and the
Okay.
typos and the information that was nothing really substantive change. So I'm fine with the discussion.
Okay.
The only thing I want to let the group know is that we have stood up a website for you. So it is on the committee page. And as we start receiving documents and minutes and everything, they'll be housed on that website for you.
Terrific.
Super.
And Bruce, I will reach out to you and pass drafts back and forth of the next agenda.
Right. Can I just give my phone number out to anyone in case? Well, actually, this is on public, isn't it? So maybe I'll hold off on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'll do that in an email then.
Good idea.
Okay.
Well, could we get a committee
Enough already.
roster sent to the members?
Yeah.
We used to do that where we all have a list of the committee members and their contact
Yes,
information.
that's good.
We have to be
Yes,
careful
I-
about open meeting law and discussing anything of opinion, but
Yeah.
it's good to know like who the people are and how to get in touch with them.
Yeah, I will include that in my email later today as well.
That would be great. Thank you.
If there's nothing else, I'd move to adjourn the meeting.
I second the motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Actually, let me do a roll.
Well,
Okay.
Bruce,
Aye.
Brandon,
Yes.
Mary Jane,
Yes.
Robert,
yes.
Michael,
Aye.
and Tom.
Yes.